I truly do not believe that any relational dynamic is one-sided. If you had to take a percentage of the responsibility for this occurring, what would it be? I remember this one client in particular. She's like, yeah, but I just started dating this man. We've been together for like 3 months, and guess what he did? And I was like, what did he do?
What did he do,
like,
girl?
This video right here is sponsored by Squarespace. Now, Squarespace is the all-in-one platform to build a stunning online presence. Whether you're just starting out, whether you're managing a growing business, Squarespace is the all-in-one platform to stand out online. Squarespace makes it so easy to build a beautiful website, engage with your audience, sell anything from products to time to content, all on your terms, all in your way. So, what are you doing here? Go check out Squarespace, go play around, use that free trial, and when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/ShanBOODY to get 10% off your first purchase of a website or a domain. Again, that is squarespace.com/ShanBOODY to get 10% off your first purchase of a website or a domain. Now, enjoy the rest of the video.
What's the meaning of life?
Oh my God.
Don't you feel like you're supposed to, that's what I'm supposed to ask you?
Yeah, of course.
Right?
Let me tell you, I will know the definite answer for every single person. Imagine, I'd be like, God, if I could do that, that would be incredible.
I guess as an existential therapist, I just feel like that's what your role is to give us all clarity on where this spaceship of clusterfuck is going and why we're on it.
Yeah, I have a sexy and an unsexy answer. I think if I had to generalize, I would say the meaning in life is to feel alive, is to actually live. It sounds really basic, but I think that's what everyone truly just wants, is to feel alive and to live the life that they have. I would say that's kind of the generalized blanket that I can offer, and the only one I can offer. The rest, I would actually say we can't find meaning, we have to create meaning. And I think that that's very personal work, and your meaning is going to be closely associated with who you are as a person.
The person I just spoke to before you came, we were talking about death. And then just before that, we had someone come on who was talking about God. Interestingly, about where I'm going to loop this back in is, she asked me, what is my belief system? It's probability.
Oh, okay.
I think that's what I think that my belief system is.
Statistics.
Statistics.
I love that for you. Okay.
Right? Like
Yeah.
the more good that you do, the more good that's likely to happen to you. There's obviously a margin of the unknown or of error, so that has to be like looped into things. But if you want a good life, if you rely on probability, doing unto others as you would wish that they to do to you, and also just keeping in mind the choices that you make, like what is the statistical outcome of this risk, of this opportunity, and am I okay in either camp? And I think that's math.
I absolutely love that. I actually, I'll often be speaking to my clients, they'll go, Sarah, my boss did X, Y, Z, or my ex did X, Y, and Z. What should I write back? And it seems really strategic. They're like, well, I want them to feel X, Y, and Z, or I want to make sure the outcome is 1, 2, or 3. And so what they want to do is for us to have this like master plan of how to get what they want. So how to control the situation in whichever way that seems desirable to them in that moment. And so I'll often just sit there and ask them what all the choices are. And I'll listen, and they'll go through all the choices. I'm like, well, I could like be assertive and maybe aggressive and tell them everything they're doing wrong. Or maybe I can just, ignore and step back. Or maybe I can feed their ego. And so they'll go through all these things that they can do. And then I'll just ask one simple question for them to narrow it down. I'll go, which one represents you? Because what happens is when we're making these types of decisions about life is we're so focused on how the other person's going to respond or receive. Very few people pay attention to like, which of this is an accurate representation of me?
Yes.
Because they think how they're going to respond and receive is their responsibility. And I think so much of how we respond to the world is just a reaction to someone else, rather than just being like, this is what I believe, this is who I am, this is how I want to present myself. And the outcomes, I'm not sure matter. And I think the only outcome that really matters is you being able to look at yourself in a mirror and go, this is me, I respect this person.
I love that. Can you tell me about math? Because we're here to talk about math today.
We're going to talk about math so much, and it's funny. I'm like, I don't think math is the meaning of life, but I'm literally here to talk about math. No, as someone who's terrible at math, I still use this, and it's the most practical kind of tool I've given my clients. I would love to know if you have a story of your last argument. So if you can share with me your last argument that you had, and it doesn't really matter with who it is, and just kind of share what your lived experience of that argument or disagreement was.
Okay. So my sister and I are best friends. She is the light of my life. Second
No
light.
offense.
There's many lights. It's like this room. There's many lights here. She's one of the lights of my life. And we're very close to each other. We're also very different. One way that we're fundamentally very different is I'm a bit more scattered. I'd love to find a loving way to say this, but I'm not as organized.
Sure.
I'm not punctual. I'm a lot less structured. And I'm a lot more just like, let's just go with things. Where she is like very structured, very formal, very organized, and as a result, very dependable. Yeah. So when me and my sister do things together, I think she gets an anxiety immediately because she's like, here comes this person who's going to like mess with my flow. So this weekend, we were going to this convention together. No, she was already going, and I was like, oh, I'm going to go too. And I think instead of that being a joyful thing, it was like, ugh. So I was like, oh, I'm going to go too. And I was like, okay, I'll get a ticket for this person, ticket for that person. I started like adding to it. And so I actually got all the tickets. I was like really happy. So I called her super excited, and I was like, hey, guess what? Like, we're going to do this, that, the third. And then she just like rained on me. Was like, just so you know, I only planned on going for 45 minutes. I haven't been home in all these weeks. I have this that I want to do the rest of the day. Like, I just want to be clear. I don't want to be stuck there because you want to do. And I was like, whoa, bitch. Not, but I was like, wow, this is like a ton of like energy that you're putting on this that I thought I was calling you for like a positive thing. So I will stop there. I don't know what the exercise is to say more, but that's the last argument I had with somebody.
Okay, amazing. How did you contribute to that argument? As in, like, did you just take it? Or was it an actual argument, or was it just her sort of expressing how she was feeling in that moment?
I think I just took it.
You just took it?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So let's say that you were hypothetically my client, which you're not. And so they come in with a story. Yeah. They come in with a story and they go, Sara, like, this is what happened to me. I love this phrase. This is what happened to me. And I'll listen and I'll be like, wow, that would hurt my feelings. Like, I am also incredibly close with my sister. If she wasn't excited to see me or for us to share an experience together, I might take that personally. And then often what happens, which you didn't do, is they'll keep sort of adding on, and then they'll start to sort of say things about their sibling, like they're so, irrational, they get triggered so easily, I feel like they can't control their emotions, and they'll sort of like psychoanalyze whoever the other party is. And so I'll listen, and what I love to do, and literally I mean this from the bottom of my heart, which might be a little of a hot take, no matter what happened, unless it's like sexual abuse or abuse, I will say, if you had to take a percentage of the responsibility for this occurring, what would it be? I truly do not believe that any relational dynamic is one-sided, ever, unless we're talking about abuse. So I'm like, you can choose 1%. I don't really care. I'm not saying you have to be like 50%. But I think each individual needs to understand what their contribution to a problem or a fight was. And we never do that. Everyone has their own subjective sort of experiences. We all want to feel like we don't need to take accountability for anything. And so oftentimes we position ourselves as victims. This is so normal. We all do it. And so if I had to ask you to attribute a percentage to this uncomfortable phone call that maybe hurt your feelings or that escalated tension in your friendship, what would it be?
I would say 70.
Okay.
My sister did text and apologize the next day because she's great. But I would take 70 because what that informed me of more is it made me feel sad that for her, hanging out with me, even though she loves me and adores me, automatically triggers like a stress response.
Yeah.
And also I am who I am.
Yeah.
So it's like, I know who you are. And I know that you're going to come with like a timeline and all these things that maybe I don't necessarily want, but I don't get triggered by them. So it just made me feel like, oh, like there's something in me that I have to like sharpen or soften because yeah, I can accept our difference and it doesn't rub up against me, but for whatever reason, I'm rubbing up against you. And so that's on me to kind of like figure out.
I love that. And in one fight, you might be 70, in the next, you might be 5.
Right.
I think when you do this exercise, people will be like, well, it was 50 now, so you just assume it's 50 always. It's like, this is a conversation you should be having with yourself literally every single time you have a disagreement or there's a problem. And sometimes we contribute to a larger problem. And so it's like, okay, we're not having enough sex, or okay, we're, we don't have time to clean the house, or whatever it is. And being like, what about my lifestyle, the choices I'm making on a daily basis contribute to this problem? What percentage of this unfolding is my responsibility? And I think this is really helpful for my clients, because when I get them to do this, it's highlighting their self-awareness. It's inviting them to be introspective, to understand that they have probably somehow contributed to that dynamic. And then whatever the percentage might be, even if it's 0.5%, it's taking ownership for it. Mm-hmm. I think it's so amazing to go to your partner and go, hey, I know we just had an argument. I just really want to say I'm sorry for blank. You don't have to go there and be like, I'm taking 5% responsibility. The 95, I'm waiting. That is not the point. The point is to see, what is the percent for you, and what are the actions that contributed to that percentage? And then going to your partner and being really honest and really sincere and going, I'm so sorry for X, Y, and Z. And that does 2 things. One, you're taking accountability, which I think is sexy and I think is important for you as a person in order to look at yourself in a mirror and be proud of that individual. 2, it opens up space for your partner to realize that like you're in it together, and not just in the good times, but in the shit show that you co-create. And it often invites vulnerability back.
Popping in real quick to give a shout out to the sponsor of this video here, Squarespace. Squarespace, we love Squarespace here. They give us the opportunity to keep on uploading on this channel. So shout out to Squarespace. We love you. And I'm telling you right now, it is the easiest place to build an online presence. For me, who doesn't know how to code, I go to Squarespace to make my websites. So you're probably wondering, how can Squarespace make my life easier? Well, I'm here to tell you. The Fluid Engine. With Fluid Engine, the next generation website editor from Squarespace, it has never been easier for anyone to unlock unbreakable creativity. Choose your website starting point and customize every detail of your website with reimagined drag and drop technology. Squarespace Blueprint AI and CEO tools. Start a completely personalized website with the new guided design system, Squarespace Blueprint. Then easily launch your site and get discovered fast with integrated, optimized CEO tools so you can show up more often to the people that you want to target and grow the way you want. Flexible payment options. Now, I'm gonna tell you right now, there is nothing more frustrating than getting to the checkout page and not really understanding what the heck is going on. And thankfully, Squarespace makes it easy. It has payment options that are very easy to use. They're familiar. They're using all the top of the line things. I'm telling you right now, Squarespace is the best place to go if you're an entrepreneur trying to sell products. So, what are you waiting for? Go check out Squarespace right now. You get a free trial, play around, build a website, and when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/ShanBOODY to get 10% off your first purchase of a website or a domain. Again, that is squarespace.com/ShanBOODY to get 10% off your first purchase of a website or a domain. We got you.
Sometimes when you're in that conflicting moment, it feels like the person who says sorry is the period to the sentence.
Yeah.
Right? So like, what is stopping me from being like, well, I'm 70% correct, but I am 30% wrong. But if I don't voice that and I just say sorry for my 30, that person's gonna be like, well, good.
Yeah, so 100%. And this is what people are so worried about. They're like, Sarah, but if I say I'm sorry for this, they'll put all of it on me.
They'll be like, great, thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for understanding. Actually, you are right. You are the problem. And then you want to lose your mind. I think this is where being very specific about what you're apologizing for is important, right? And again, you cannot control how this person's going to respond. Are they going to be mature? Are they going to be self-aware enough? Are they going to realize that like they participated? But you're not doing it for them. I think in psychology, we just need to remember, something I remind people all the time is like, half the shit we teach you is not for other people. It's, yes, I want you to have a healthy relationship, but again, it's for you so that you can live with authenticity and integrity. So let's say that you're like, hey, I'm so sorry for this and this and this, and they don't say anything, that blows.
Yeah.
And that sucks. And you can just be very explicit about what you are taking responsibility for and what you're not. But at the end of the day, you did the right thing because who you are as a person wanted to apologize for your contribution. If they want to throw it all on you, that tells you everything you need to know about that person, but that's none of your business. And I think it's sort of sometimes detangling your actions from other people's reactions and realizing that that's not why you're doing it. So yes, it would also drive me absolutely insane, but worst case scenario, they dump it on you. You don't have to be like, yeah, I agree. You can just say, look, this is what I'm choosing to take responsibility for, and that's it. This little thing, that's what I'm taking responsibility for. But sometimes I think we can also explore and be like, is there context? Like, how do we distribute? Is it always just between two people? Or is it like, hey, that was like really shitty timing, or like there's children involved, or there is financial stress. So if you really want to be experimental about it, you can also try to sort of distribute this percentage across multiple things. And I think that way you can get all of this is just to get a better understanding of what's happening. But I also use percentages not just in conflict situations. I also use them to avoid conflict. So let's say that you're like, Sarah, you're so great, my favorite guest I've ever had, let's grab lunch. And I'm like, oh my God, flattered, yes, let's do it. You're like, I really feel like having Moroccan. And I'm like, oh my God, I feel like having Chinese. And then it's like awkward. And we're like, okay, what do we have? I love to ask people to put a percentage on their desire. So what I mean by that is like, I personally feel like having Chinese 80% and Moroccan 20%. And you might be like, I feel like having Moroccan 60% and Chinese 40%. What does that tell you?
You're more passionate about
this arbitrary decision, and that it means more to me, and that for some reason I really care. So what can that kind of evolve into is you probably being like, hey, I actually don't care that much, 60 and 40% are not that far off. She seems to really care. Amazing, let's order some Chinese food. Imagine if couples did that with decision making.
That sparks my thoughts about agreeability versus disagreeability. How there are just people in general who have a better ability to see something wide, right? To see the upside of both, right? Like, so is there a way of getting around the fact that in some dynamics, some people are more likely just to feel passionate about their way because that's just how they are?
Yeah, that's such a great question, actually. Absolutely. I think there's people that are going to have very strong preferences. And I think it doesn't necessarily mean that the person who doesn't have strong preferences is automatically disadvantaged.
Yeah.
Because like, if you don't have strong preferences, maybe that individual will like someone making that decision for them. If someone has very strong preferences and the other person doesn't, they can also be incredibly compatible. I think it's also up to the person who has very strong opinions and preferences to sort of be aware enough to understand when they're taking up too much space. And that's another way that I take percentages of like, when we're speaking, what is the percentage of time you're speaking compared to someone else? And when you're sort of giving advice or trying to work through something, what is the percentage of questions you're asking versus the statements you're making? Oh my God, it's the amount of female clients I have that will go, I went on a date, guess how many questions he's asked me? Like, how many? She'll be like, 1. And you might be like, this was the best date ever. Let me think about like who spoke more, how many questions were asked, blah, blah, blah. And you can be like, oh, I spoke 20 or 80 and he spoke 20 and this was the best date I've been on. Great. So what you know is that you like someone who's more of a listener, maybe someone who's more introverted, maybe you like having that stage, maybe you're more talkative and that works for you. And that's not bad. We're not looking for a 50-50. We're just looking for compatibility and self-awareness. That's it. So I think this can then bring you to questions like, why do I like to talk more? And was it just me trying to sort of process something verbally with him? Or was it just because like I felt so safe to be vulnerable and share sort of stories from my life? And so it's just like a springboard to self-awareness.
I also love that definition as well. I don't want to skate over that of like trading sacrifices.
Yeah.
Because that also feels like a beautiful description of relationships, period.
Yeah. But I think there's a difference between sacrificing and sacrificing yourself. And it's like compromising and compromising yourself. And I think that's a distinction. Like compromising your preferences, your wants, even your desires, I would say is fine most of the time. Compromising values or who you are or things that make you intrinsically you is not. I think sacrifice is important, but I also think in psychology or in kind of modern relationships, it's been really glorified. And you can disagree with me, but I think sometimes we sacrifice too much. And I think when we're sacrificing too much, that's often because of lack of compatibility.
Yes.
I do find that people are so scared to stand up for the things that actually matter that we end up being really aggressive about the things that don't. And this is the same with boundaries. It's like we won't set boundaries in terms of things that really protect us. And I see this with clients all the time where they like learn about boundaries and get really excited. And I remember this one client in particular. She was like, I have a rule that whenever I go visit my mom in a hospital, and her mom was really ill, I don't want anyone texting me or being in touch with me at all. Like, I want this time to be a sacred time with my mom. I was like, that makes perfect sense, of course. And so then she started dating someone, and in her previous relationship, she was with a man that really violated every boundary all the time. So then when she got out of that relationship, she was like pretty strict. And I was like, okay, that's wonderful. And she's like, yeah, but I just started dating this man. We've been together for like 3 months, and guess what he did? And I was like, what did he do?
What did he do,
like,
girl?
Tell me.
Yeah.
Tell the tea. She's like, well, I was with my mom in the hospital, and he texted me. So I'm going to break up with him. And I'm like, oh my God, okay, like that seems kind of sudden, but can you tell me more? Like, what did he text you? Well, he texted me, I know your mom's like cancer test results are coming out today. I just want you to know I'm thinking of you. And so then I was like, okay. So that's all he texted. He didn't try to call. He didn't talk about anything. He just sent like I know today's a hard day, so I'm thinking of you. She said yes. And I was like, and you want to break up with him? And she's like, yes. I was like, talk me through that. She's like, well, he violated a boundary. And I just realized that she was setting boundaries out of pure fear as a way of keeping people out.
Yeah.
Rather than being like, here's a blueprint to how we can play ball together in a really healthy way. And so she was so like hurt by the repeated violation, transgression of her boundaries. And now, even if a boundary didn't make 100%, if it didn't make sense, but someone violated it, she took it the same way as previously when they were violated and it actually mattered to her. And they became so rigid. And they became a wall, not a blueprint. And so then I just remember asking her, I said, but it sounds to me like you're setting boundaries to protect yourself. Is there anything about this that makes you feel threatened? Is there any way that he's violating the sanctity of who you are? And we had this really beautiful conversation where she's like, oh, I was just purely triggered by this. But the reality is that what he did was actually really kind. And I think that's an important thing to keep in mind is like we have these tools, we get really excited, we want to make relationships work, we read about the 5 love languages, we read about sacrifices, we read about boundaries. But this is just an invitation of like exploring how we use these things.
Yes.
Each boundary is not a prescription. Like you need to think there and be like, what is the context? What is the need? What is the desire? What is my intention with this boundary or with this particular sacrifice? And so just being a little more, I keep going back to awareness because I think it's the number one thing we lack and why relationships are really suffering is because we're not contextualizing our tools.
In closing, what tools do you have that, including the tools that you create and you make, if people are thinking about this but don't necessarily know how to start thinking in this way, where can they start?
Yeah, I think I even have a newsletter called this, Notes on My Phone. I love having like a tangible thing where you actually record things. It's like receipts. So I think that you just need to practice and see if this works for you and just you can do 2, you can do a mathematical one or an emotional one. You can have a conversation with someone that feels uncomfortable, bust out your notes, be like conversation with Timmy on 25th of March, and you go, try the percentage, be like, I think that was 80% on him, here's why, 20% on me, here's why. And then you can be like, here are the emotions that I felt during it, because I think that's really important. That's another way of doing this of like, I felt small, or I felt unseen, or I felt sad. And so then you're tracking sort of a pattern. And I think patterns are great, especially when we're trying to avoid the tit for tat, because it's like different capacities, different contexts all matter. And so for me, it's actually just writing it down and see if it lands for you, if it doesn't. It does two things at the same time. And so I think that's why it's such a powerful exercise.
Math.
Good
for everybody.
Good for everybody.
I really love
Especially
it.
if you're emotional and in your emotions, it's inviting the logical part of your brain in. And I think that can be really helpful.
In closing, where can people go to find more of you? What are you excited about right now? What's lighting you up? What's giving your life meaning? And how are you sharing that with others?
Yeah, wow. So my primary kind of social media presence is Instagram. Millennial.therapist is my handle. That's where I sort of share and build a community that, by the way, I really care about. And then my book. It's called It's On Me.
Yes.
It's all about personal responsibility and figuring out who you are and why you're here. I know we haven't been able to explore those questions in this chat, but really that's what the entire book is about. And it is how personal responsibility sets you free.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sara. This was so wonderful.
Thank you so much.